want to share with you that we are so happy and excited to be running yet another successful, free, amazing Kweller Prep webinar. And it has been busy, busy, busy at Kweller Prep recently. Today, as I said, high school results came out. And here we are, about 6 months shy of college results coming out for next year. But you should know, wow, Bill, I want to say what, 10 days from now, there will be a lot of high school is done. uh, Hunter results will come out. Shortly after that, college acceptance offers will be released. So I just want to remind everyone as we're starting the webinar right now, if you are interested in retaining the services of Kweller Prep, let's do it now. Let's plan early. Bill can only handle, a set number of students. This is not something where we take in large droves of kids. We spend a lot of time individually with students. So before we jump into the webinar, Bill, if you could just take a minute or two and just explain that this is prime time to start planning about retaining our services. And just keep in mind, whatever money you spend, you'll make back because you'll get amazing tens and thousands of dollars in scholarship offers, and the average student at Queller is over 100,000 in scholarship opportunities. So what we charge for in terms of time and hours, just so that you know, we have a program where it's all in 10,000 for college applications, or you can do the 250 an hour route. I just want to tell you, whatever you put in, you get back very fast because the scholarship opportunities are incredible after you work with Kweller Prep. So please, Bill, if you could add a moment just to share, and then we can jump right in. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Welcome, parents. Just to follow up what Francis is saying. So we have an excellent college advice service, and part of it is free. We have expertise and we're sharing it with folks and students, hoping that we get good outcomes. So we're here to help you if you need help. A lot of this stuff we're giving is information that's mostly self-help. So there'll obviously be some questions. And if you want expert one-on-one help with this guidance, college advice guidance, we're the people to go to. Let me share my screen. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. So tonight is the third of 16 presentations. I'm going to present the first 5. So tonight we're talking about SUNY, CUNY, and Macaulay and other programs. And we're going to also talk about some financial aid. So I'm mixing in financial aid, but mark your calendars. Next week will be I'm going to focus more on financial aid. So that's generally our most popular presentation, is the financial aid one. So I'm Senior Director of College Advice for Kweller Prep, and a lot of my expertise is based on being an admissions recruiter and working for the Office of Admission at the University of Michigan for 22 years. I've also given private college advice for many, many years with lots and lots of success. Okay, so we're on the third. And let me actually share this document before I go on, because I want folks to know the big picture here.
And everyone, we're actually going to add to the webinar for the financial aid. So we're going to add, so I think we're hitting 17. We were at 15. We went up. So we're going to have quite a lot. We're going to keep you busy Thursday nights with Kweller Prep.
Right. Okay. So let me actually.
No, we're staying on schedule, everyone. We're going to add, when this is all over, we're going to add a financial aid webinar when this is all done.
Mm-hmm.
It will be added on. We just haven't figured out when.
Okay. Let me go back here. So let me just continue. So I'm going to come to that list later in the presentation. So I'm just get going here. Okay, let me start off with the SUNY. The SUNYs. Okay, so the big picture in the SUNY system is there are actually 64 campuses, including the two-year campuses. But the ones that we're going to concentrate on are, well, there are four university centers. So those are the four schools that have PhD programs and other professional programs like law schools, et cetera. The three that we're going to, the three big ones, the three flagship publics are Buffalo, Stony Brook, and Binghamton. So those are the focus tonight for the SUNY portion. Most states, so just kind of like taking a step back, all states in the country have a public university system. And very typically there's one, depending on the size of the state, there might be one or two or more flagships. So those are the premier, the most prestigious, the most rigorous programs. In New York State, there's these three. For example, New Jersey has Rutgers. Connecticut has the University of Connecticut at Storrs, and Pennsylvania has two, University of Pittsburgh and Penn State. But there's a whole. We'll actually talk about that a little bit next week. Actually, that's part of the topic for next week. Out-of-state publics. So let me begin with Binghamton. So Binghamton has 6 colleges within the university. About 70% of the students are in the arts and sciences, which is a liberal arts school. So if that covers everything from math, physics, biology, philosophy, English, history, etc. That would be in the Harper College of Arts and Sciences. There's engineering and management are the two other really large ones. There's a nursing school, a pharmacy school, and public affairs. Those are less, have fewer students. One thing I will say about Binghamton is, whereas some schools it's easy to transfer from one college to another, at Binghamton it's somewhat difficult. So once you make the commitment, it's going to be difficult to transfer. So I would not think of it as like, oh, I'll get into like the arts and sciences school and say a biology major, and then maybe I'll switch to engineering. It is a difficult transfer process. So keep that in mind. So one of the things that I really like to look at when I'm giving advice or to inform myself is the most popular majors. So this is available on a lot of the websites that are on the document I'm going to give you at the end that has a lot of resources. So I have places where you can find this information. But most search engines, most of the college search engines have the list of the most popular majors. So this kind of gives you an idea what are students studying there. So you can see the most popular majors are bio, psych, neuroscience, somewhat surprising, economics, and on down the line. So it helps to see if it kind of gives you one small element of where you feel like a comfort level. Stony Brook, right here on Long Island. So it's nice that it's commuting distance. It's in Suffolk County. Is a great school. They have about 18,000 undergrads. Binghamton has about 15 or 14,000, so they're close in size. They have a 49% acceptance rate, which is somewhat similar to Binghamton. It is ranked the #1 public university, but those rankings change. And when they say that, that's usually the U.S. News and World Report. That's their rankings that they use. And Stony Brook has actually moved up quite a bit. I think it's like 58th. You take those with a grain of salt, but it means something. And you get great educations from our public universities. The class sizes tend to be a little bit bigger. The ratio of faculty, students to faculty is usually about 15 or 16 to 1. The privates tend to be less, like maybe about 7 to 1, I would say, on average for a private college. So Stony Brook, unlike Binghamton, Stony Brook does have honors, 3 honors colleges. That's the first line on the top. Let me just show you that here. So these guys here. The ones below it are not separate honors colleges. Those are like programs. To apply to them, like the honors college, this one is the biggest. It has they take about 700 students each year. Out of about 4,500 students in the first year class. The way you apply to the Honors College is you first apply through to the university. And then when you apply, this is the case in all applications. Once you apply to any college, within 24 hours, you'll get an email inviting you to go to their applicant portal. And once you're on the applicant portal, there's a host of information and updates, and any news is always located in the applicant portals. You'll get a password, a temporary password, to give you access to that. So in this case here, once you're in, they call their portal Start SBU. Once you log in after you apply, that's where you can apply to, if you choose to, an honors college. So the honors college will require another essay, and the honors college has a separate living. So you could choose to live in a community of other honors college students. There's mentorship, there's special research opportunities. You also have dibs on applying for classes, so you're more likely to get a class, because classes, when you register for classes, which happen about this time of year for the fall, it's based on a priority system. But students in the honors colleges will have dibs, will have ability to get ahead of the other students to register. How do you apply to SUNY? The Common App is the most common way of applying. The Common App, as you know, is widely used. Almost all the colleges that we know of use the Common App. About 900 colleges use it. Nearly every private college does, and many of the publics do, including SUNY's. The SUNY also has their own application, which overlaps the Common App. But I recommend the Common App, since most students are going to be using that anyway. So there are a bunch of these links here I'm going to give at the end. But there's a lot of information just to learn about the different campuses, which when you're applying, there are so many choices. But I think that for the most competitive students, you're looking at, especially, well, Buffalo is far away. I mean, not to say it's not a very good school, but it's the more popular schools. Clearly, if you're in New York City, would be Binghamton and Stony Brook. But definitely want to, no matter where you apply, I definitely feel strongly that you should visit the school. That's where you're really going to get the most sense of whether you belong there, and maybe sit in on a class, go to the info session. But most importantly, the initiative of actually walking up to a student on campus or students, that's where you really get the feel for it. Go to the dining center, sit in the quad, strike up a conversation with students. That's where the most value is going to come in when you make the visit. So do try to do that. So these are some upcoming events. April 9th, they call it Which SUNY Are You? And it is online. I have the link that I'm going to share in that document at the end. So this describes everything about the school, including financial aid, the different campus programs. Each campus is unique. It's more of the same. Okay, let me talk about CUNY colleges. So that's the City University of New York. So it is quite large. With the two-year schools, there's quite a few campuses. Again, there's only a handful that are considered flagships, but in this case, there are these 8. So these 8 colleges are the best ones. They're the most competitive schools. So our best students would apply to one of these 8. Notice, by the way, there's one and only one in each borough, except for Manhattan. And Manhattan has 4. So Hunter, City College, Baruch, and John Jay. So City College is the oldest. It's considered technically, at least technically, the flagship. So the campus was built in the late 1800s. It's a gorgeous campus. It was actually modeled after Yale University. So it's on the upper. It's in like 137th Street in Broadway. So like the Upper West Side, just north of the Upper West Side. So these are the big 8, if you want to think of it that way. For engineering, there's 2 of the CUNYs have a full engineering program. City College and the College of Staten Island. So the only place, two colleges where you can study engineering, like whether it be mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering. They have the full range of choices. And that's the distribution of schools. Oh, this is Macaulay. So the Macaulay does use those eight schools that I mentioned, the flagships. So if you're in Macaulay, so Macaulay is the honors college of CUNY. So if you're in Macaulay, you have to be a student at one of those eight flagship schools. So the eights are listed here. I think Hunter, Queens, Baruch, and City are the four most popular. They differ in enrollments actually. Those four take 100 students each year, or 120, but the low hundreds. The others take 20 only. So it's about 600 students, roughly 600 to 700 each year are enroll in the Macaulay program. So what is Macaulay? So it is an honors college. Again, you first apply. It's a similar two-step process. You first apply to the CUNY through the CUNY application. There'll be a little checkbox about Macaulay. If you get admitted to there's a separate essay that you have to submit if you do choose to go the Macaulay route. You would normally get accepted to the college campus first. So if you apply to, say, Queens College, you could be admitted to Queens College, and then they consider you for Macaulay. If you check that box and you submit the additional essay, and there's additional requirements as well, so you'd have to follow that. So the nice thing about Macaulay, some of the benefits are there's free tuition for all 4 years. There are also special programs that only Macaulay students can participate in. There's special mentorships with professors. There's dedicated research funding only for Macaulay students. Semester abroad is funded. One of the classes each term is actually at the Macaulay has a building on the Upper West Side. So you take one seminar, so you just gather with other Macaulay students. It's exclusive for Macaulay students. The other classes typically you take 5 classes each term. So the other 4 would be at your host college, so in the case of Queens College. So you'd be a regular student at Queens College for the most part. Each of those 8 schools actually has a dedicated lounge. It's a little perk for Macaulay students. So the students can develop more friendships. It sort of makes a bigger college smaller. The deadline is November 15th, so it's only one deadline. It's not a regular decision. You think of it as an early action program. This is just some of the details about the seminars and some of the details. That's information that just would be on the web for you guys. Okay, let me just go on here. Okay, so there's another program. This is Sophie Davis. So these are smaller programs within the CUNY system, and they do have a bunch. I'm just going to speak about a couple of others. So this is a combined BS MD program. So what that means is, for those who know for sure they really want to be a medical doctor, it is very competitive. It's a 3+4 program. So this is there are a handful of these programs in the country, and they tend to be very small. We're talking some of them have as few as 15 students. This one actually is quite large because it's the city of New York. So they enroll 50 students each year. 50. It's based at CCNY. So again, it's like that program, but now you're committed to being at City College on 137th Street, Manhattan. And it's unusual, by the way. A lot of these programs have a 3+4. Let me talk about that. So 3+4 means you only have 3 years undergrad, and then rather than 4. And then after your 3rd year, you start your medical program at the CUNY Medical College, or it was formerly known as Downstate. It's in Brooklyn. So in 7 years, you're basically guaranteed to become a physician. So that's really nice, because medical school, as you probably know, is extremely competitive. This school does not use the MCAT. Many of them do. Many of the programs do, which you have to have a minimum MCAT to get in. This is a guaranteed program, pretty much. So students do not take the MCAT. You have to have 5 letters of recommendation and 3 essays, and they're looking for especially what you've done in the health field. Brooklyn College has a smaller program. It's the only other program that has this combined MD undergrad program, undergrad/MD program. But they're 4+4, so it's 4 years undergrad and 4 years in medical school. Say medicals, it's the CUNY Medical School. They only take four. This is a very small program. So the application is very straightforward. It's a very simple application. They do not use the Common App. They use their dedicated application, the CUNY application. So if you just Google it, it's very easy to find it. It's very easy to apply. There's one essay. It's very similar to it's 500 words, so it's a little bit shorter, but it's similar to the Common App personal statement. We want to compare the CUNYs to the SUNYs, if I might, because a lot of folks you have to decide between these two. You apply to both, of course. But what is the difference? They're both part of the state. It's funded by the state of New York. Okay, it's funded by the state of New York. The city, it's a separate system though. So obviously the city is the city system, and it's only in the 5 boroughs. The CUNY system is non-residential. That's not to say there aren't some dorms, but it's like you're talking maybe 5% or even fewer of the students actually reside on campus. So it's a commuter school system, which is very common to city systems throughout the whole country. So large cities have their own university system. It's typically a commuter program, similar to a 2-year college in that sense. The SUNY flagship, since students live on campus and they tend to be in smaller, in separate areas like Stony Brook or Binghamton, New York, they tend to have a stronger school spirit. The SUNYs tend to be a little bit more rigorous, generally speaking. The retention rates and graduation rates are going to be far higher at the SUNYs than the CUNYs. That's not to say the CUNYs are not bad schools, and it's actually less expensive too. So the tuition at SUNY is about $11,000 for the tuition, and for CUNY it's about $7,000. This is kind of like a breakdown, just kind of give you a general picture of what's required. So the letters of recommendation, almost all the colleges you could apply to are going to be either 1 or 2 letters of recommendation. The selective colleges generally have 2, and many of them will have optional letters. So Stony Brook has 1, Binghamton has 1 optional. The honors college at Stony Brook has 2. And I say CUNY here varies 0, 1 because it depends on the campus. I think Queens College and Hunter have 1, the others have none for the letters of recommendation. But since you already have letter, wouldn't really be a factor. And here are the deadlines. So there is early action. None of these schools have early decision, so it's not binding if you get in. That's true, by the way, for all public colleges. All public colleges in the country, in any state, are all EA. None of them have ED, so none of them are binding. So we're going to continue. I'm going to talk about financial aid in a minute, but this is an opportunity. I do like questions because sometimes I talk too fast. I miss something. I found that the interacting is very helpful. So if you want to chat a question, that would be helpful to me, or any thoughts that you have, kind of bouncing ideas. Because it's hard to just speak into the computer without interacting. So that's kind of compensate for that. So if you have a question, please. And if you chat it, put it in the chat, I'll see it, and then I can stop or at a good moment and try to talk about the question. At the end, we're gonna open it up too, so people can ask questions verbally. Okay, so here's the big question. This is true universally. I always try to talk about this in each presentation. Again, as a preview, next presentation next Thursday at 7, I'm going to be spending most of the time actually talking about financial aid. So please try to attend that. It's really good. It's a very popular presentation. So how do you pay for it? Now, the SUNYs already start at a lower price. But before we talk about how to pay for it, let me paint a picture about what the cost is. So what are we talking about here in terms of money? So the total cost is $35,000. Only $11,000 is tuition, which runs opposite to private colleges. In private colleges, the lion's share is tuition, of course. The reason why it's so low is, of course, the state is subsidizing it. Now, one way to look at that low price, $11,000, and this is something that's going to come up in the next couple of slides, is from the state's perspective, everyone is getting basically a $30,000 grant that they don't pay back. That's the way they look at it. And my perception is that once they give that, since they're giving that grant to everyone, that $30,000 grant, they don't feel, the state does not feel like they want to give any more. So that $35,000 price, it's hard to bring that down significantly. So you kind of almost stuck with that. It seems low, but as you shall see, it is not as low as many people realize, as people think it is. So how to pay for this? Okay. So there's federal and state aid. So let me talk about the federal aid first. So applying for FAFSA, I feel every single parent and student should file for FAFSA, even if you don't feel you qualify. The reason is, first of all, it's not gonna work against you. FAFSA qualifies you for a lot of programs, like for example, work study. Say, for example, you want to get a job on campus. The work study program is funded by the federal government, so they can't give that money unless you qualify for FAFSA. So by not applying for FAFSA, you can't get that work study. So it puts the student at a disadvantage for a campus job. So campus jobs are in the gamut. So working in the library, being a TA in a calculus class, being a tour guide. All these jobs, when you walk on campus, you see all the jobs are populated by students. That's through the work study program. Federal loans are available. So there are different loans. The best ones are the direct, formerly called Stafford loans, because the interest is paid by the federal government for the 4 years that you're an undergrad. So the interest does not accrue. So that's considered a big advantage. And even when you do graduate, the interest rate is subsidized. So it's like 7% or 6%, whereas an unsecured loan in the market would be much higher. There's Pell Grants. So these are programs that are applied for both public and private college students. So the Pell Grant, but the problem with the Pell Grant is the income has to be quite low to get it. So I think the cutoff is in the low 40,000 in adjusted gross income. And then there's plus loans. So plus loans are still somewhat they're collateralized by the federal government, so it's fairly easy to get it. But they have higher interests, and it's not the interest accrues. So it's a parent loan. Just to make that clear, I should make that clear actually. So these federal student loans are student loans. In other words, the student is the person who signed the promissory note. They're responsible for paying it back, not the parent. Whereas the plus loans are parent loans, so only the parent is the guarantor. Any questions? Let me see. So I could take a break. What is the transfer rate for CUNYs? Well, I want to say something about the transfer rate for CUNYs. If you're in a CUNY, this is an interesting question because it is designed, the state system is actually part of this, a big part of the system is meant to encourage transfer. So it's much easier to transfer from a CUNY to a SUNY than if you're just from another college, out of state or a private college. So there is a very, very high opportunity to transfer. So that's a good question. I don't know the exact number, but it is high. Can you take a minor from a school in university that isn't your own, like at Binghamton? They have offer minors in most subjects. So most students major, either double major or major minor. That's more than half. So you would take a major and often at least one minor. And the minor has to be offered, so the minor doesn't transfer. No. Though there are some opportunities to customize a minor, but the public universities not so much. Private colleges, yes. Let me go to the state, what the state offers. So this is state aid. So I was saying before that the state is limited in the aid they give because they feel they're giving you the discount to start with. So they use the Higher Education Services website. That's where that's the agency that handles aid. So the main source of aid is TAP, the Tuition Assistance Program. That's basically nearly all of it. But it's not that generous. It only gives up to $5,000 maximum. And it's very hard to get that because the income cutoff is quite low. After 50,000, it goes almost to zero right away. So it's like a cliff. So there's very little, there's not that much money in it. When you're applying for FAFSA, you automatically apply for the TAP. So be careful when you apply for the FAFSA, look for that link for the TAP. If you miss it, you'll get an email in the next few days requesting that you didn't fill out the TAP. Please fill out the TAP. Folks may have heard about the Excelsior Scholarship. I'm very down on it because there are so many restrictions, and some of the restrictions are just very stiff. To just let you know, if you take like you have to have 30 credits each year. If you go to like 29 credits, you can't make it up. You lose the scholarship, and you can't recoup it. Also, when you graduate, believe it or not, you have to actually live and work in New York for 4 years. So say you live like a summer out of New York, even a summer, I think, disqualifies you. And if you take a job, even if it's for a few months, you also lose the scholarship. So it's very restrictive. There are a bunch of programs that do teacher loan forgiveness. So if you teach certain subjects, especially, it depends on what subject you teach, like STEM subjects, there's different programs that forgive loans. And there's this website and programs that helps parents. I have a link to all this stuff at the end. Okay, let me talk about more information about pricing. So I'm kind of mixing in some of the ideas of how to get the price. So it's an online tool required by federal law to be on every college website. So this is like a big deal. So it started in 1985. This is a major breakthrough. So I really always try to publicize this. So every single college in the country has this tool that it doesn't take long. It takes about 15 minutes to fill it out. And by law, it has to be fairly accurate. So it tells you how much money, how much grant money, need-based money you'll get. Okay. So the net price, this is kind of what the net price is. So the net price, it's a legally defined term. So they can't fudge it. So they can't throw in loans. They can't throw in like work study or other programs. The net price is actually the money that you have to pay. So a loan would be something that you or your student has to pay. So that's not included. In other words, the net price that would be included in the net price, but wouldn't be included in the money that's considered a grant that's taken off the top. So an example of a SUNY, if the SUNY was 32,000, and they gave you $10,000 as a grant, then your net price is 20,000. This is this would example for someone earning $90,000 a year. So that was just the net price. So the grant money that's the money you want. That's the gold standard because you don't have to pay that back. But once you're stuck with the net price, family savings, that's called self-help. So the idea in general, I'm going to take a step back about the net price. So the gold standard, which about 30 to 40 colleges in the country subscribe to, is that they use these two forms. I'm going to talk about this a lot next week, but briefly, the FAFSA, there's two forms that private colleges particularly use to determine an accurate measurement of what you truly can afford. So that's the FAFSA, of course, that's the federal form, and the more detailed CSS profile. Between those two forms, they're going to come up with the expected family contribution, what you can truly afford to pay. So at the better schools, the most selective schools, they're actually the most generous schools. So what you're going to have to pay is your net price, is your expected family contribution. So if you could truly afford to pay $20,000 based on reasonable calculations, that's going to be your net price. So how do you pay for that 20,000? Well, I mean, there's going to be Stafford loans, of course. But that runs up to $5,000 or $6,000. There's work study, so many students do that, so they work, but it's part time, 10 hours a week, maybe 5 or 10 hours a week. So that's like $2,000. And if those who have saved in the 529 plan, and family savings, of course, that's a big source, or you're out of your income, and plus loans. That's the parent loans. So there's like a net price, like every website has it, so you can kind of navigate to it. So I can actually come back to this. let me see. Yeah, let me go to this. Just kind of give you a flavor because we're talking about SUNY today. Let me give you a sense of what that is, okay? So let me just go here and do Binghamton University. So this is kind of how you navigate this thing. So this I recommend you kind of do it to all the colleges that you go to, and just in general, I'm a big believer in visiting the college websites, the individual websites, because there's loads of information. Also, it reveals kind of like the flavor of the school, the personality, but they are filled with loads of information. You can spend all day on these websites. So just to give you the example of Binghamton. Now, Binghamton does not use the CSS because it's pretty straightforward. So there's not many calculations involved because the truth is they don't really give much aid. So you go to admissions, undergraduate admissions, kind of just navigating this with you guys. Undergraduate admissions. And let's see here, cost and aid at the top here. Let's see what they say here. You can see there's a bunch of information here. Oh, here it is on the right. Financial aid resources. Let me check that. Scroll down a little bit. Oh, here's an impress calculator. They don't take usually very long to do. This is what it looks like this is actually brand new because I go to this site from time to time, and I think they just put up this new version of it just like in the last week. So this is new. But anyway, they ask you a bunch of basic questions and about your financial information. But rather than go through all that, let me just share this with you here. So I got this information I'm sharing with you from the U.S. News and World Report. So this gives you the income bracket. And so if you make say 90,000, so you're in this bracket here. This is adjusted gross income, family income, household income. The average cost is 23,000. So what does that mean? So the tuition, the total cost is about 35,000. They're listed at like I think 30,000, but they have some very unrealistic estimates. Like they don't do travel expenses or entertainment. So this is a more realistic number. So that's a lot to pay. So in other words, they're basically, and it's starting from, yeah, so you're gonna have to pay 23,000, but that number is deceiving because it's actually starting from 30,000. So I'm claiming that there's $5,000 more that they're being too conservative. So the real cost is like 28,000. That's a lot of money a year to come up with. So it's not very generous. That was the point I was trying to make before. I have a slide that shows you this. So I have a couple of slides I want to share with you about kind of this pricing, the lack of transparency, so to speak. So I just want to, there's a couple of comparisons I want to make here. So this first comparison is comparing the SUNY. This is just tuition. So room and board basically is a constant. So it's about $20,000 room and board. And I'm not including things like travel, entertainment, or something like that, but just focusing just on tuition and fees. So the SUNY looks really low. It's $11,000. The average of the top 50 privates. So obviously the privates are basically the same price up to like the 50, 60, best schools. Then it starts to decline somewhat. But the average for the top 50, so that would be like the Ivies and Northwestern and Northeastern and Duke, Wesleyan, schools like that, at 65,000. And the out-of-state public, so those are also something I'm going to talk about next Thursday. Those are also desirable, but some of them are great. Some of the publics, and there are advantages to publics over privates. And some of the states, not many, but some of the states do have elite public colleges. I mean, we all know University of Virginia, UVA, University of North Carolina, University of Michigan, Maryland, and the California publics. Those are all elite schools. So that's something that you don't want to overlook when you applying to college. If you have one shot at it, you don't want to not do your homework and miss an opportunity. But the trade-off there is it's less than privates, but the out-of-state rate is higher. So the out-of-state rate for these elite privates is 40,000, and it's very difficult to discount that. Why? It makes sense because the state schools are funded by the state, by state taxes. So if you're out of state, they're reluctant to share that money. So you're pretty much stuck with this. There are some scholarships, but limited, merit scholarships, but limited. Now this is a more accurate slide. So this slide adjusts for the net price. So the net price here, I'm using an example, $100,000 in income and standard. Home equity is not included in the calculations, generally speaking. So this is pretty typical numbers here. Net price, 19,000. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get into an elite private college, which obviously it's not that easy, it's actually almost the same price as a SUNY, but actually I'm going to use the middle column. So the middle column is a top 30 college, so that's only 12,000, but they're very generous. What that number tells me is that 12,000 here. What that's saying is this is like your this is like your net price. That net price, that's the expected family contribution. So like I was saying earlier, the best schools follow the gold standard, which is that you only have to pay what you truly can afford. So these colleges, the very elite colleges, practice that. They have big endowments and they have very high standards. So in this particular case, this family can only afford $12,000 a year. That's all you'll have to pay. And this number goes up as the selectivity goes down. So there is a correlation between how selective the college is and the generosity of financial aid. There is a relationship. Let me see if there are any questions about that. I'm throwing a lot at you. Again, I'm going to clarify a lot of this next Thursday. So there's one here. So a couple of questions around financial aid. Let me read these questions. Can you apply for financial aid in second year or mid-year? Yes, the answer is yes. So if you didn't apply, or if you applied and got denied the first year or didn't apply, you can apply second year. The answer is yes, if your financial circumstances changed. Generally, financial aid, you have to renew it each year, but they're unlikely to change unless there's something drastically changes in your financial circumstances. So when you get a financial aid package, you could expect to receive the same package all 4 years. Transferring. So transferring is especially common for the CUNY system or the 2-year college system. This is the community college system. All right, those are good questions. Let me move on here. Okay, so this is the cheat sheet. Again, I'm going to give you this whole cheat sheet, and there's a lot of other stuff on this cheat sheet. So, and I'm going to talk about it again next week in details. There's a lot more to it than that. So the only two programs in the state, okay, for the CUNY and the SUNY is the Excelsior and the TAP. Excuse me, there's very strong income restrictions. The TAP says 80, but the reality is it's more like 50. Because between 50 and 80, it's like $500, so it's not significant. So the money comes at 50 more than that, 50,000, I should say. The Excelsior scholarship is really, in many ways, a bogus program. So absolutely would not count on that at all. There are merit scholarship programs, but there are few that you can apply for. I'm going to also talk about that next week. So the federal programs, so here's where the money is. In the private school world, this is where you want to be. So most of the money given out are what's called institutional aid because it's given by the institution itself, not the federal government. So the federal government is actually quite not generous because the only federal grant you can get is a Pell Grant. That's the only grant they have, and it's not much money. The maximum is $6,200, which is not much, and you need very low income to get it. So the majority of families will not qualify for any grants. So you're stuck with loans, and the loans are limited too. I've talked about loans also, but there's not that much money. So you really want to get in the private college world. You want to get that, and also merit aid. So merit aid is a totally different type of aid, so it's not need-based. The elite colleges, like the top 30 colleges, prohibit merit aid. So 100% of their grants are based on need only. So merit aid is basically an enrollment tool that colleges use to lure better students to where they feel using their algorithms that this student got into a better college, but we have to compete. So they sweeten their offer by giving merit aid. So it's a tool that's used by colleges to attract better students that they would not necessarily normally go there. So it's sort of like can vary quite a bit, but but it can be very significant. Merit aid grants can be 20, 30, 40,000 or even more. So they're quite available. Those are for private colleges, mostly private and not the top 30. Not the top 30. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. So this is the College Navigator. So this is actually on it's one of the resources that will be in the document I'm going to share with you in a moment. This is a great website. It doesn't publicize because it's for the federal government, which doesn't advertise much. So the College Navigator, so the information on the Navigator is the information that's the schools, the universities are required by law. Every college in the country gets most of their money from the federal government for research grants and what have you. So they're beholden to the government. They have to provide lots and lots and lots of information. And it's all here. And it's pretty easy to find. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I'll look it up. I'm going to use this in a second. So we have a few minutes. So I'm going to kind of share this with you. We'll go onto this College Navigator website. Let me do it right now. So let's say here. So you can just Google College Navigator. It'll come up right away. So let me look at Cornell, for example. So I typed in Cornell, hit enter. And I'm going to click on it here. So you can see there's so much information here. It's like really remarkable. The net price, let's look at net price here. So it tells you, this is really interesting. This is where I got the information before. The US News has they actually have a API, like a interface. So a lot of the websites that you see that are private, like search engines, actually draw their data from this. Most of them do. This is the go-to website. You're getting it right from the source here. So for example, let's analyze this for a minute. So for example, if you're in this category in income, say 90,000, your net price is 18,000. So you only have to pay $18,000. I mean, Cornell's, the sticker price is about 90,000. So they're going to give you a 70, well, some of it might be the subsidized loans. But this actually, the net price doesn't even include that. So this is telling me that if it's Cornell, the sticker price with tuition, room, board is about 85,000, maybe a little bit more. It goes up each year. So roughly speaking, they're giving you like a $68,000 grant each year. Call it 70,000. So just to show you how generous it is. I mean, it's really remarkable college. I mean, it really advances students. It makes your career and your life and the people you meet and a much richer experience. And they pay for it. They really help you pay for it. It is really one of the most remarkable deals that you can get in society. It really is very generous. But just to share some other points here. So that's just the net price. I mean, you could look at, I mean, you can see all the categories here. So this tells you the breakdown of all the costs. So I was quoting you before about the net price. So the net price, if you look at it, in the most recent year they have, which is in the right column, if you're living on campus, which most students will, that's total $88,000. So almost $90,000 a year. So who can afford that? Not many people. Most students who go to these very expensive schools, I'd say about 55, 60% get significant financial aid. I think the average financial aid is about $45,000 or $50,000 a year. But about 40% or so actually are able to pay the whole thing. Oh, we'll just go down here. Anyway, you can continue scrolling here. Admissions, enrollment data, admissions. Oops. Admissions. So I give you SATs, the students. Yeah, they even give you SAT data here for those who stop testing optional. But anyway, it's all there. It's all there. It's very, very useful. I recommend it. And again, that's what I'm saying. So next one, paying for it all, that's the emphasis there. So please check that out next week, next Thursday. Yeah, let me take any other questions. Let me see. There's some more questions came in the time. We have a few minutes left. So Alex asks, how common for a student to study? Oh, we answered that question already. AB, are you more likely to get financial aid if you're an existing student? No. No, virtually everyone who gets financial aid starts as a first year student. So applying as seniors in high school. That's where the lion's share of financial aid is awarded. And again, once it's awarded, it stays at that rate for all 4 years in most cases. So no, that's not true. When do you receive the financial aid package? When do you need to make a final decision? Okay, so the financial aid package generally comes at the same time that you receive your admission. So if you are lucky and you get admitted to a college, at the same time, you'll receive the financial aid package. It'll give you all the details, including the net price and the breakdown of everything, including how you can, how to loan opportunities and things like that. But generally speaking, when you get in regular decision, this is one advantage of regular decision. Early decision has advantages. But early decision, you're married to the school. So that whatever financial aid package you're given, you pretty much have to take it. And you can estimate it to the net price calculator. But if you go regular decision and say the student gets into 5 colleges, you could actually compare the packages, the financial aid packages, and a lot of parents don't realize it's negotiable. It is negotiable. So especially if you're committing to a school and you show a package of a comparable school that's more generous, very typically they will match that amount, surprisingly. Because once they accept you, it's sort of like you're treated differently. Once you're sort of in their community, they're like kind of one of their own. So how do I find the need-based amount expectation to college? So the website, that's the net price calculator. I think that question is referring to the net price calculator. So every college must have a net price calculator. Just to cut to the chase, if you would type in net price calculator in the search box, right away, it will go right to it. And you can try it yourself because every college has to have it. So that's a good thing. The net price calculator, don't forget that. And any consideration to the state. So Yukado is asking any consideration to the state, like New York and New York City income differentiate. That's an interesting question. In the CSS profile, every college, unlike the FAFSA, which is universal, every college gets the same information for the FAFSA. But for the CSS profile, every school uses their own proprietary algorithm for calculating. In other words, the CSS is owned by the College Board, the same folks that own the SAT, but they're in a contract with the college, with each individual college. So they download. In fact, the CSS differs somewhat depending on which colleges you apply to. So there are different questions. Most of them are the same. But the point is that information is downloaded to each college, and some colleges, many of them do factor in the New York City is more expensive. So they do factor that in. So the answer is yes and no, depending. Yeah, FAFSA opens August 1st. So no, you wouldn't do it now. FAFSA is very easy to fill out. The CSS profile is much more challenging. The FAFSA you have to do it right. So we Kweller Prep, we do that. We handle as part of the package. You don't have to have that package, but we do a lot of financial aid. It really can make a big difference, the financial aid. How you apply, especially with the CSS. There are a lot of very difficult questions that have a lot of shades of interpretation. So there's a lot of money involved. So I would recommend hiring an expert to do that. And the CSS is also August 1st. The recording, I think we do record these messages. Lily's asking. We could ask Francis that question. So I hope this was useful. Again, next week. Let me share oh, of course, share the document. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna forget that. Let me share that right now. Um, let me share that with you. Hang on for that document. First, I want to share this with you. This is actually on there. Um, I'm going to put this in the chat right now. Give me one moment to find that for you, as promised. 1 second here. I will promise you that document right now in the chat. There we go. This is the links. As I do this, actually, I probably should share my screen. Let me share my screen right now so you see what I'm doing. Hang on, folks. I'm not forgetting this. So this is the document that I'm about to share with you. And it's all the links, including the links from the first two. I keep adding to it. Let me share this with you guys right now. Making sure this is the right document, and it is. Oh, here we go. Let's chat with everybody. So this is resources. Okay, you guys should get that right now. Let me just make sure it has the, does it have that, the list of, no, let me give you one more document. That's the list of this guy here. This is the webinars, the list of all the webinars. There's 16 of them. Let me share that with you as well. So this is the webinar, Kweller Prep. Okay, there we go. Everyone should see that. Hopefully you got that information. And let's see here. Any other questions? We have just a couple of minutes. If anyone has any other questions, let me see. Otherwise, we'll see you next. I hope it was worth the hour. Let me see. There is a couple of questions. Let me grab these questions before I let you go. For colleges that are not need blind, are you more likely to get an admissions offer if you do not apply for financial aid? So that's something that I'm going to talk about that more in detail, but the short answer is depending upon the school, it can have an impact. Yes, a small impact, not usually very significant, but they are need aware. So they do factor that in. So the answer is yes, it can affect you. Depends on how much need you have also. So if you just need a small amount, probably doesn't mean anything. Net assets excluding home equity. So that's a question. Usually home equity is not included in the assets question in the CSS profile. The home equity is a separate category. So how does home equity counted? In the FAFSA, it doesn't count at all. In the CSS, again, it's proprietary. Every school treats it differently, but generally speaking, when it comes to home equity, there is an exemption. So like the first 200,000 may not be included, depends upon the school. And just equity is treated, assets are treated differently than income. So there's a different treatment. We'll talk about that more next week. So hopefully I'm kind of making you some teasers to come back next time to get information on financial aid. So we will see you next week. I hope it was useful. And thank you for your notes here. We'll see you guys next week. And I'll find out about the meeting. Francis, I don't know if Francis is online, but I'll find out. And I think it is recorded. We can share that. So Francis can share that with information with you. So take care, everyone. Have a good night.